Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name is Ivana Harincue if you're new here, and if you're not, thank you for coming back. Today is Thursday, February the 24th, and today we are talking about something that probably most of you have heard already this morning, and that is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Today, I am joined by Scotty Colson, the Honorary Consul for Ukraine to Alabama. He is here today to talk a little bit about the Ukrainian community here in Birmingham in Alabama, what we can do for those people, and what we can do to support Ukraine as well. Now, Scotty is also the director of community relations at the Jimmy Hale Mission. So, Scotty, you wear a lot of hats here, right?
I have a
But
big
you
head.
Right. Well, that helps. You are very involved with the Ukrainian community here in Alabama in Birmingham, and I will just for sake of transparency here, I am Ukrainian. My father is Ukrainian, and that is my heritage as well. But you're very involved with that community, and I think that a lot of people are going to watch this and say, "What? There's a big Ukrainian population in Birmingham?"
Well, and I'm one of only two honorary consuls who have no Ukrainian background. You pretty much have to go back to Adam, I guess, for a family tie there. But in '98, the city of Birmingham was recruited by USAID to help with democratization, and I was the one that ran the program, and I dealt with all the international stuff for the city. And so I fell in love with Ukraine and the people. Uh, we worked with cities in Lugansk and Donetsk oblasts, which are the Donbass, where a lot of this has started and has been ongoing since 2014. But then we also have our sister city of Venezia and a lot of connections between their medical school, Pyrgov, and UAB Medical School, and lots of back and forth. But one of the cool things that I got to do as honorary consul was begin our Independence Day celebration. And COVID has had us, on hold for the last couple of years with that. But we would have 300 people from around the Southeast who would come. And we're not like New York or Chicago or Cleveland that has a large part of the Ukrainian diaspora. But we do have people, and they really love the idea of sharing their food, their culture, their music, and that's one of the things I was very fortunate to be able to do. And telling the story of a country that is working towards democracy and working towards being a full member of the West, and trying to support them on that.
Well, tell us, Scotty, you mentioned that Birmingham was a sister city, essentially.
Yeah.
Tell us why. Why Birmingham, of all places, were we recruited those years ago to have an honorary consul?
That's we started with USAID because we'd worked with them on several other projects after the fall of communism, and they wanted us because we were considered a example of how to build a new type of government, a new inclusive government after our time as being very not inclusive and not very democratic in this area. And so we were seen to have some good object lessons, and also for our change of economy, because that was another big thing that we had to try to work with folks on, is we had to change everything about what we did economically as well as socially and politically. And so we were considered, and I think we are, a very good example for countries and cities that are trying to do that. And so when we were chosen for that, we these connections began showing that we had a lot in common with places. For example, Venezia has the top medical school in Ukraine, and it's a international medical school. So UAB and Venezia's Pyrgov University have been very involved over the years, and a lot of different joint research projects. And the connection, I said that connection is that the idea of change, and we've hosted numerous open world delegations. This is a program run by Congress to bring officials from the former Soviet republics to learn how to do democracy, to learn how to do open government, and other things like you mentioned. I think the journalists that we had here a couple of years ago, right before COVID hit, and so we were able to be a very good example for these folks. And when we would host them and everything we did, we would show them things that we felt we were very good at, and then we would share things that we're not very good at. Because being honest in our approach to working with people from other countries is very important because um, we're seeing now that truth, as Churchill said, is the first casualty of war. And what the Russian dictator has been putting out is an example of a way to destroy truth. And one of the things that we taught and that we worked with is that only dictatorships hide their problems. Democracies put their problems up front, and we work with them. And we're seeing very clearly here the approach of a dictatorship as it approaches a democracy, and the animus and hostility that a dictatorship has to have towards a democracy. Freedom hurts enslavers.
Well, and I don't want to sidetrack too much, but you mentioned the group of journalists that I had the pleasure of meeting with and meeting with you with, and they were something that I thought was so interesting is they were kind of blown away looking at Birmingham's history of civil rights and our civil rights just area downtown, the Institute, the park, 16th Street Baptist Church, and they said, well, you just put that out there, you just let people go and look at that and see all of the horrible things that happened here, and they were so appreciative of that, and they found that just so interesting. And I remember just those things that maybe we take for granted, right? We see that so often. Scotty, you and I both work downtown. That's where we live. That's what we see. We
Yeah.
drive past it every day. And it's something that a lot of people, and especially across the world, don't have. So I want to ask you, there's people here that are in the Ukrainian population. They identify as being Ukrainian. There's also a big group of people who have worked to adopt children from the Ukraine. There's a lot of ties here. So what can the city do? What can we do just as private citizens to help those people and to get involved?
That's a wonderful question, and we're working on that right now. As you know, the situation there is very not only very horrible, but it's very fluidly horrible. We don't know how things are going to shake out over the next few months. If we can continue a dialogue, and Ivana, I know how to find you. We will have a dialogue as we come up with ways that people can help. I know for the last 8 years, our Sister City program has sent over 7 tons of humanitarian relief to the Donbass and the soldiers and the families there on the front line of the Donbass. And that's something that the community has been very helpful for. Now, as this shakes out and we find out where the lines are going to be and how that is, I really do hope I can get with you and then get that out, how people can help. Right now, the biggest thing you can do to help is, if you're a praying person, please pray for the good people who are under the gun literally right now. It's a hurricane of explosives and metal and tanks coming at them. And then I would ask you to get in touch with your representatives. You've heard some voices in this country saying, "Oh, this was a savvy move," and what do we have to do with Ukraine? And we need to remind our representatives that we're Americans. We believe in freedom. We believe in fairness. We believe in justice. We believe in democracy. And I think it's very important for the people who watch this who do believe in those things to get in touch with representatives, that we must stand with Ukraine. We must stand firm. We must do everything we can because these people are willing to fight for their freedom. They're willing to fight and put up their lives, everything they own, to defend a country that they have been working hard to build. And the United States, as Lincoln said, we're the last best hope of mankind. And if we're to be the last best hope of mankind, we have to be the hope of people who yearn to be free.
You know, Scotty, I think there are going to be people today and going forward who say, look, whether we're in Alabama or we are in America, that's so far away. I don't have friends there. I don't have family there. I, why should I care about what is happening over there? We're not sending troops. How does it affect me? What would you say to that?
Well, there's 2 ways to approach that. The first way is if you believe in anything, you believe that it is the job of good people to help people, that we must do good for those around us. To whom much is given, much is required. And so just on a moral standpoint, that when you're seeing somebody attacked by a bully and your reaction is, let's just watch and see how this turns out, that means you're not a good person and you need to do something about that. I hate to preach on it, but that's exactly what that means. If you can see someone being attacked, someone being bullied, somebody being mistreated, and your only reaction is, well, it has nothing to do with me. Let's see how it turns out. You need to do something because that's wrong. It's just simply straight up wrong. The other thing is that this is a big round world, and what goes around comes back at you. In the 1930s, people were, oh, this is just Czechoslovakia, this is just Poland, this is Sudetenland, this is Ethiopia, this is China, this is Indochina, this is Sumatra. And then it came to our doorstep. Always remember the wonderful admonition by the preacher in Nazi Germany. He said, when they came for the socialists, I said nothing because I'm not a socialist. When they came for the trade unionists, I said nothing, I'm not a trade unionist. When they came for me, there was no one to say anything. We must be the ones to say something. Because the work, we can talk about, oh, it's going to affect our gas prices. It'll affect food prices because Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. We can talk about the economics of it, and that does make sense. But if all that matters is that it's going to cost you some extra that will inconvenience you, then you are missing what it means to be an actual citizen of a free country, an actual believer in what is right, and somebody who actually believes it is a responsibility to stop bullies and to stop dictators.
You mentioned earlier on for people to contact their representatives, to contact their leaders and tell them to get involved. And I wanted to read, I have two statements here. I have one from Governor Kay Ivey, who said to pray for the people of Ukraine. And then Senator Tommy Tuberville has also released a statement, and he said, quote, Putin is a tyrant attacking a sovereign nation. I condemn this unnecessary war, and I implore the free world to cripple Russia, with sanctions. The United States stands with the Ukrainian people and will support them in the supplies and financial aid needed to protect their country. And that was from Senator Tuberville, who is again a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. So we have had, even just this morning, this happened late last night, really erupted late last night. This morning, we have two of the state's top leaders who are speaking out against Russia and standing up for Ukraine. Scotty, everything's political, unfortunately, nowadays, but it seems like this could be something that people on both sides of the aisle can say, look, this is wrong.
That's right, it should be. In the good old days of the Cold War, it was said that politics stopped at the shore. And because we had national interest and we had a commitment to standing against a great evil, which was communism. And the same thing in the 1930s with fascism, and the same thing against colonialism after World War I. This nation has to be the leader in standing up for freedom. If we don't, as we're the indispensable nation when it comes to the idea of freedom. And if we don't do that, no one else is able and no one else will. It's very good to hear the leader saying this, but it's also important, having been around politics for decades, it's also important that once they say these things, that we as people hold them to it, that we hold them to, okay, this should not be a gotcha on either side, because to be honest, for 20 years, both parties have messed up this entire situation that has come to the head now in Ukraine, and that messed up the situation with Russia. 4 different administrations have done nothing to stymie the rise of Putin and his territorial grabs that he has made for 20 years. They've done nothing. And that has come home to roost. So we've got to, as a country, not as Republicans, not as Democrats, not as this, that, or the other, but we have to see this as what it is. This is an attack on freedom. The Russians want to, several years ago, had the chance in Ukraine to sit down with some Russian consultants. And they said, one of our goals is to do to the US what you did to the Soviet Union, to have us break apart into constituent pieces, to have us become like the old Soviet Union, a bunch of contentious little states that are not able to stand up to anyone. And I laughed at that time, and I really need to track those guys down and congratulate them because they were right on. The Russians have been very good at helping push the division in this country, and a lot of what you see, a very high percentage of the misinformation you see on social media does come from Russian and even Chinese disinformation. And so we've got to begin questioning some of these voices that say things like, oh, it's a savvy move. We have to question the voices who get up there and say, why does Ukraine matter? Because it's a democracy and we're free, and we should be helping people who try to be free. When you're on the side of the bully, that's when you really need to look in the mirror. And so we as a country need to look at those in our own country who give aid and comfort to the bullies of the world, to the tyrants of the world, because that is not how we as a country see ourselves. This is not how we as a country can perform. We have to actually stand for something, or we will fall for anything.
Scotty, I know you said you were going to keep us up to date when you learn more about how we can help. The situation is very fluid, so I will hold you to that. And right now, I know you said that the best thing for people to do is to keep Ukrainian people in their thoughts, in their prayers, and in their minds. Tell us where people can get the most accurate information. I know you mentioned misinformation is rampant. So where is the best place for people to figure out what is going on the ground in Ukraine, in Kyiv, and in all those places?
The BBC is very good. The Economist is very good. CNN is doing very good live shots. That is their forte on something like this, having people live on site. I think that you have to be careful once you watch where stuff is coming from. I got a news feed today that I was not familiar with, and I looked, and it was basically from Russia Today, the Russian English language propaganda rag that puts out their lies. Look for confirmation from a couple of places. That's for any news right now. Great extinctions in our history has been the extinction of editors, that anybody can put anything on and nobody checks it for facts. That is incumbent upon us as good citizens, as good consumers of the news, to check for the facts. So look for different sources. Don't just stay in your echo chamber. That's one of the biggest problems we have, and it's why and that was one of the things that my Russian friends that night said they want us to do, is to make it echo chambers where all you hear is one thing. And if all you hear is an echo of your own thoughts, that's not a real healthy place to be for your ears, your mind, or your spirit. And so you've got to begin looking at other sources, but also understanding that there are people out there trying to fool you on this. And those people are working for the dictator that is in charge of Russia.
Scotty Colson, the Director of Community Relations at Jimmy Hill Mission, also the Honorary Consul for Ukraine to Alabama. Scotty, thank you for breaking this down. I know you're a busy man, especially today. I know you are trying to keep tabs on a lot of things. So we appreciate your time here. And again, we look forward to you giving us information about how to help. And also, you always have a platform here to keep us going, informed about what's going on over there.
And give to Jimmy Hill Mission. We're working to help people in this community. Got to get you that commercial in. Sorry.
Absolutely, Scotty. Thank you so much for your time today. Everybody watching, thank you so much. And again, make sure you are getting reliable news out of Ukraine. Check your sources, and don't believe everything you see on social media as well. I know, Scotty, that was one of your big things going back years, not just today, but we're just reinforcing it today as well. Again, thank you.
I think Lincoln posted that on Facebook once.
I'm sure he did. So thank you, Scotty, everybody watching. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.